Hey there, you rebelicious soul. It is great to have you here. I'm excited to inspire you again today, and I hope that this podcast episode will open up new possibilities within you. Enjoy and feel free to reach out if I can support you in any way. Hello. So I would love to tune in with you today about a very classic relationship dynamic that pretty much all of us are familiar with. It is the classic dance where one partner pulls away and the other partner would simply love to get as close as possible, as soon as possible. So when this happens, and we're going to focus primarily on you being the one who doesn't pull away, because it might cause a number of responses in you. It could be that you are very secure in the relationship, that you're very secure in yourself, and that their withdrawal or pulling away, it doesn't worry you that much. In that case, congratulations. That means that you have a very solid base in yourself. However, it is not uncommon, and a lot of people will experience a sense of discomfort when there's a change in the dynamic. Because, when everything's fine, you feel safe, it's nice, and then all of a sudden, they might be interacting less. Their behavior might be that they're shut down. It's very hard to read them, maybe. And, you're only human, so that there might be questions arising. If you feel something stirring within yourself and you're becoming restless and a little bit of fear is coming up, then let me take you through a number of good things to remind yourself of, so that this time of them pulling away becomes a little bit easier. Because right now, you might be feeling panic and hurt. But the thing is, so are they. It might be that their pulling away is the result of a feeling of inadequacy in them, insecurity, not knowing what to do, and just wanting to do it right so badly that instead of making mistakes, they'd rather withdraw and first get themselves together. However, you are left and you might be wondering, do they still want to be with me? What did I do wrong? How can I get them back into the relationship? Especially if there was no apparent cause between the two of you, if there was no apparent rupture and they're pulling away anyway, then you're basically left with a lot of questions like, what's happening? And for a moment, it might even seem as if the relationship and you cease to exist for a little bit. And that could be just a few hours or a day or a few days, maybe even longer. And all of your questions and all of your fears are valid. They're there. I understand. I really do. However, before you make a move, what may help you is to get a little bit of more understanding what might be happening for them and for you, obviously. The thing is, withdrawal is a reaction to a feeling of stress. And when we are in a stressful situation, and that could be external, it could be that it has nothing to do with you. It could have to do with work, with their kids, if they're not yours, for example. It could be a number of things. In any case, stress causes a spark of unsafety in the system. Their nervous system is reacting to, whatever external thing is going on. Most likely, it doesn't have anything to do with you. It's just that they have learned over time that to regulate themselves, to cope, actually it's a coping mechanism, to cope with their overwhelm or their stress, they need to withdraw and, find a safe space. It might be that your system would do this very differently. You might, for example, want to talk with a friend more. You might actually be the one to reach out. You might lash out in anger even if you're in unsafety. Maybe you are trying to please others when there's a sense of unsafety in your system, because when you please them, they might come back. You might need more closeness. But the thing is, that's how you might react to stress or unsafety. And there are people who need a timeout. It really all depends on, how you grew up, what experiences you had in your childhood, how your parents modeled this for you. Yeah, we are all conditioned, aren't we? When your partner withdraws, what they're basically saying is, I feel unsafe. And I don't know any other way but to retreat into safety with myself. I need to have some space alone. Please just let me be for a bit. That's what they're saying. It might just be that they don't know the words at that point, and this is something that they will need to learn. Often when someone is withdrawing, communication becomes very difficult. They might even feel stuck. It's as if their throat is blocked. So, we can judge it all we want. But the question is, can we also feel empathy for it? Now, what's interesting is that relationship counselor John Gray, and you might have heard from him. He's the author of, the books about Venus and Mars. I love the theory to some extent. I love it. There are some great, there's great parts to it. I also think that sometimes it's a little bit more complicated. What he argues is that this withdrawal, the cave time, is more common for men. And it's very often hormone-based, testosterone-based actually, and therefore very normal. This is also something to take into account if you are a person who identifies as a woman and they identify as a man, and you can see this dynamic. It's a very classic one, but it's definitely not just based on that. I also know of cases where it's the other way around, so I don't think it's that gender related. It is also that our attachment style plays a role. If we have more of an avoidant attachment style, then we withdraw. And that attachment style is either a reaction to what happened in our past, because, for example, our parents were quite boundaryless. They were too intrusive. And as a result, we have learned, someone who withdraws has learned to put up walls because otherwise they would be intruded too much. Or, and that's the other way, is that they simply didn't have any other example. Their parents may have been very withdrawn, so then they're modeling the behavior. I believe that really plays a role, apart from, I just didn't want to take away that that fact or that, interesting part that it might be a hormone thing as well. Anyway, let's move on. When this happens, understandably, this does something to your system. So you can understand all that's going on for them because, their nervous system has been programmed in a certain way. They are trying to protect themselves. They're trying to regulate themselves and get themselves back into safety. The thing is, when they are in that state, connection is not on the top of their mind. It isn't. But this will do something to you as well. Your system. You might notice a restlessness in your chest or maybe in your throat. You might feel it in your body that you feel that you need to repair. You want the closeness as soon as possible. You might have a very strong inkling to help. That might be one of them, like, yeah, but I can help you. I can support you. Why don't you talk about it? The thing is, they're not ready for that. And the question is, where does your inkling, your wanting, your strong need to help, is that really selfless, or is it actually covering up your own need to be needed? And this is interesting for you to look at. Like, why do I crave this closeness now? What is that actually telling me? You might also be thinking a lot, being in your head and thinking that you know a better way, that you have the answers, that you can see exactly what's going on. Basically putting yourself a little bit above the situation where you think you have all the overview and you know so well. Or perhaps one of your ways is that you're sending a lot of messages to tell them all about what it's doing to you and how you're feeling unseen and how you're feeling unhappy, basically complaining even more, making them withdraw even more. Or you're working your ass off, pleasing, trying to be as loving and supportive as possible to pull them back in. And that means those are all signs that your nervous system is also not in a very good place right now, or that you're actually activated, because your nervous system is reacting as well. You might feel afraid, you might feel anxious, with a very strong need to be close. And now, don't get me wrong, there's nothing wrong with wanting closeness, with needing connection and needing to communicate. Those are very basic needs in our relationship. However, when there's this restlessness, when it comes from a place of anxiousness and restlessness, that's not the healthy place to come from. And then it becomes a dance of two triggered systems with opposite needs. Your partner may need to regulate themselves by having distance, and you just want to feel close and regulate together. It's co-regulation. So the question then arises, what need receives more priority over the other? It's a very interesting one, because I'm asked that question quite often. I've been asking that question myself a lot of times too, because it's a dynamic that my partner and I can be in as well. With him just really needing to do some self-research, like he wants to dig deep into himself, and he needs to do that by himself. And I understand it a lot more than I used to in the beginning, but it can be scary. But the truth is that, forcing someone to be close simply because you want to, when their whole system says no, it's useless. It really is useless. What I would say, the best response is, let them be with themselves for a bit. They need to regulate first. See if you can put yourself in their shoes a little bit and understand their mechanism instead of judging it. It's very easy to judge it, but that judgment is actually holding you, keeping you to your pain. Instead, why not choose curiosity? Like, hey, what might be happening for my partner? What am I not seeing? Can I maybe understand a little bit from their perspective? And I know it feels very counterintuitive to do this differently and to actually let them be without, trying to get them back into the connection. But really, it is the best way. Does that mean that you need to put aside your needs, or that it's unfair? Yeah, it might be unfair. And let me tell you, relationships are sometimes unfair. I'm sorry to say so. I'm sorry, but not sorry. But sometimes it just sucks. Your partner does not have to be at your beck and call all the time. And this is a harsh truth sometimes, because we might feel like, yeah, but I have needs as well. Why is it about their needs now? Well, yeah. A lot of times they are in connection and now they cannot. So can you take care of yourself for a bit? Whatever you feel around this is valid because it's yours, and it's really important that you stay with your heart, feeling all the feels, feeling the sadness and the anxiety and the hurt without necessarily acting on it. Your need for closeness is valid. Your need for reassurance and safety, etc., is also valid. It's all valid. But see if you can find this with somebody else. Perhaps one of your best friends, or a coworker you can really talk to. Maybe it's your coach that you could reach out to. See if somebody else can give you what you need, or that you give it to yourself. And yes, it's the next best thing. It is not what you would actually want. The thing is, in mature relationships, we cannot always be there for each other all the time. Sometimes you may not be there for your partner either. And that's okay, because you are both mature beings. You are both mature, sovereign beings who may sometimes say, I'm sorry, I cannot be there. And it really is okay, as long as there's balance. So trust that your partner doesn't stop loving you, and that they will come back a better person. Yeah. And that the next best thing is not there to replace your partner, because everyone has their own unique vibe and their own energy. And I understand that you would prefer being connected to your partner and that you want their arms around you. And it will happen. Yes. It's just that you and your partner cannot be everything to each other every time. Yes. Sometimes you cannot find the meeting point, and that's normal. What matters is that you are able to repair when you get back together. So try to stay understanding and empathetic and be curious about them. See if you can carry yourself in it, if you can hug yourself, if you can hold yourself with all the emotions. You don't have to push it away, but you don't have to act out on it. You don't have to become angry and send millions of messages to your partner and demanding that they come back. We don't do that. No, you let them be and you take care of yourself. Now, if you're the partner who actually needs some distance, here's what you can do to help them feel safer so that they actually can give you the space that you need. Okay? So I'm saying this because it's going to benefit you. You give them a promise of return. This is one of the things that my mentor, Terry Real, always mentions. And I think it's one of the best lessons in cases like this. Give a promise of return. So you could say, for example, hey, honey, I'm really feeling stuck right now. I don't know how to handle it other than taking some space for myself. I will let you know if I'm ready to connect in half an hour or a few hours or 3 days or whatever you say. And that's when you will come back. Perhaps you could add to that sentence. It would help me so much if, for now, you hold the fort for us and that you find somebody else to support you. So basically you're promising them when you will be back. And it doesn't mean that you have to come back and reconnect. It just means that you give them an update. Hey, I still need some time. I'm very confused, etc., etc. And I will, let you know again in another half a day or a day, whatever that is. And that is important. That is going to give the nervous system of the partner who is being pulled away from some support. So the deeper question that for the both of you, however, is, how can you regulate yourself? How can you find ways to feel more secure in yourself so that this need for withdrawal or too much closeness, which is both based on fear, so that becomes a little bit more neutralized, and more regulated. Even though it's a primary response of our system, we can rise up to the occasion, become more aware of our own coping mechanisms, and at some point, if we recognize it, we don't have to be led by it. Take a breath, take a pause, take 10 breaths, and be like, okay, so what's happening within me right now? Do I really need to choose this again, or can I choose differently? Now, I'm not saying that any of these mechanisms are something to be judged. I'm saying that, it's possible to learn new ways to shorten the time of withdrawal or communicate about it in a safe way, or to carry yourself in a different way, to find a different way of regulating, What you can learn this way is responsible distancing. Distancing is part of any healthy relationship. You're not joined to the hip the whole time. You have your own need for space. Everyone does, because otherwise you get too enmeshed, which is not very healthy either. But you want to take that distance in a responsible way, so not withdrawing without any communication and just, backing away, but communicating when you will be back, being clear. Now, you both deserve a sense of safety within and also in the relationship. The great thing is that, through building a healthier relationship with yourself, you can actually enhance the relationship with each other. I hope this helps. Have a wonderful day. Thank you so much for listening. It's been my absolute pleasure to share this with you again. I really hope that you enjoyed this episode, and if you're hungry for more, please check out my website, michellekoops.com, and subscribe to my newsletter, in which I share so much value every single week. Have a magical day. Stay raw, stay real, stay revelicious.